Hello there, friend and fellow maker. I 3D printed some stamps. These are texture stamps for EVA foam, and I made several of them, different patterns on them. Let's see how they work. Got a piece of 6mm HD foam. I'm gonna heat it up a whole bunch. Okay, then I'm going to put my textured thing on there and give it a good push for like 10 seconds with all my body weight. Oh, look at that. So what was a flat foam piece now has this three-dimensional texture on there. And if you happen to own a 1-ton Arbor press, you can use that too and get even better results. Let me show you that. Got everything set up in my press here. I'm doing a thicker piece of foam, nice, maybe 20mm thick piece. I find that the thicker the foam, the more of an impression you can get. So if you wanted to get a deeper impression on this piece, you could double it up, stamp the top one. But we're just gonna use a thick piece for our carbon fiber pattern. Ooh. Same thing, heat it, squish it. Oops, you go back there. This goes in like this, and we give it a good squish. Yeah, and we let it go. And we look, yeah, look at that. That looks like carbon fiber, that's so cool. I am so excited about this. I made a hex pattern one. I got this guy right here, and with our carbon fiber one, and I also have this one that's just lines that turns out really cool. And what I want to do is use some of these and make something. I think I'll make a helmet. Also, you can use these stamps to texture leather. It's a little bit different. Instead of heat, we use water. Boy, that is a that's a resilient piece of leather. We'll just soak that for a little while. Okay, we have a nice and pliable piece of leather here. That's the show side. That's going to go down on our texture. I have a couple of pieces of wood here so that nothing flexes. And then instead of stamping it, we have to apply pressure for a while. So we're going to clamp it. Good thing I practiced this. You know, a couple of big old C-clamps here. And then once it's clamped down, you want to give it like half an hour. It doesn't take too long, but just gotta let it chill for a bit. So we'll come back in just a moment. Woo! And half an hour has passed. Let's see how our stamp turned out. Oh, look at that! That is so cool. It's still damp, but just like with the foam, you could put a stamp like this on a piece of leather and then cut your piece out and you are ready to go. Fantastic. These files I'm going to put on our website. You can buy them for like $5, download them, print them yourself, and add textures to your own projects. If you like it, I'll make some more. The helmet I'm making is going to be based on this basic helmet pattern that I made. It's for sale over on our website for just a couple bucks if you want to grab it yourself. I'm going to use that as the sort of base for this helmet that I designed. And on my design here, you can see that I have added details that are going to hide my seams and planned out where I'm going to try and put some of the grooves. So those parallel lines are going to go up here and down there. And then on some of these detail pieces, I want to use the carbon fiber. And we'll look for opportunities to use them on other parts as we put it together. This corner is getting chopped off to match the design I did in my drawing. I've grabbed a piece of 10mm thick foam for the sort of base form of our helmet here. And I'm going to cut these 3 pieces out twice. One will be mirrored for the right side of the helmet. All our pieces are nice and cut out, and normally this is when I would heat everything up, grab my foam anvil and sort of round everything over a little bit. However, I'm going to add texture first. That also means I can't heat it afterwards because the heat will pull that texture away. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, I've been doing a little bit of tinkering and trying to figure out the best way to stamp this on a piece multiple times so that we can get it to cover the entire surface. Here's what I got so far. I'm going to heat up a section of this and then press my pattern into it, and then I have to heat up another section and do the same thing. However, I don't want the heat to bleed back into this part and remove my texture. So let's give it a shot with just our hand stamp here. And you have to get it pretty hot to get a good impression. And then I want to make sure my lines are facing the correct direction. I'm all set, but I'm double checking. Do this and press really hard. Okay, that got us a pretty good impression. Got some texture there. And then the idea is we'll heat up this next part and move down. However, I don't think I got enough leverage when I pressed this. If I was standing higher, it'd be a little better, or if this was a little lower. So I'm gonna get something to stand on and do that again. So much more leverage. Okay, let's see how it did. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Now to heat the next part, I'm gonna cover this, and I'll probably lose a little bit of that, but we'll keep it going. Try and line this up so it's overlapping, and we do that again. There we go. It is repeating. Now, you can totally do that by hand and eventually get there. However, I have a 1-ton press, so we're gonna move over to that and give it a try. I've modified the press a little bit. I made a platen on the bottom out of some plywood, and I added some foam so that our foam has a little bit of give. I find that makes a better impression. I also added this top part so that when I go to squish it, it's all flat all the way around, and I get lots of pressure on the whole thing, and I should be able to get really deep impressions this way. Let's give it a try. That has almost completely removed the texture. Now we can just go in here and give it a squish. Oh, and that squish is so much more than by hand. Turns out I weigh less than 1 ton. Now we pop this guy out. Oh, now we're talking. That's what we want right there. It even sort of started to bend it for us. So now I need to do that again, only overlap it. Line that up like that. Put it in the thing. Wish I could be a little quicker at this, but I think I'm doing okay. And done. Yeah, that's continuing all the way down. 2 more, I think 2 more, 1 more? 1 more, I think we can do it in 1 more. I think we have just enough to do it in 1 more stamp. There we go. Of course, you could print out multiples of these stamps and glue them together if you need a big sheet of them. And it's probably possible to make a roll, like a roller. I don't know how to make that in Fusion yet. There we go. There, that is pretty cool. The transitions are okay. We have this really lovely texture on this piece now. Getting a little quicker at this. It's definitely a process. A little finicky, and there's a certain knack to it. But the 1-ton Arbor press helps a lot. Ooh, yeah, it looks good. Yeah, that is tricky, a little tricky. Yay. Now that our textures are applied, we can put this thing together. I do this all the time. Did you catch that fart?
Yeah.
Did you hear my hand fart?
Be the lead.
I feel like this barge might be past its expiration date. Look at that! Look at that! Look at that! That's cool. Assembly went okay. My seams are a little ugly. I think my can of barge here has just about given up the ghost. That's okay. I have a plan to cover all these seams. It'll look great. Next step though, put it on a head form. Makes everything easier going forward. This is a foam head that I made. We have a pattern for this over on our store, punishprops.com. Go check it out. Fits this head perfectly. And now we can use it like this to do the next steps, including picking out a visor for this thing. I want to have a really cool looking shiny visor on it, and I have a whole box right here. These are all the visors I've collected over the years. I've got a bunch of different varieties. I bought a ton of these no-face ones to use when I was making my third Foamsmith book. I've got a piece of headgear in here, more test pieces. This big thing, I don't know what I'll use this for, but someday I'll use it. Whole mess of really fun stuff. Another example for Foamsmith 3. For this helmet, I think it's gonna be this visor. It's wide enough. I really like the nose swoop there, and I think it's gonna fit really well. I'll just have to trim it to size a little bit. Now, I've done something fancy with this already. This started its life perfectly clear, and it has a little bit of a blue tint to it, and I did it with this stuff. It's a stained glass spray paint, and it leaves a very fine color, a very translucent color on whatever you're spraying. It was also an example in Foamsmith 3. You can see I was showing off that very technique here, spraying a couple of layers on until I got it to the blue that I wanted right there. So a really great alternative. They have several different colors of this if you want to tint it a different color. But I'm going with this, and I got the blue, and I like the blue, so we're going to put it on our helmet. I taped the visor down to the helmet so that I can make sure everything is nice and centered and positioned correctly, and then I'm going to trace where I want to cut it, and I want to leave a little bit of an overlap so it has something to bite onto when I glue it. So now I'm just really just tracing the outline of the helmet with like a 1/4 inch seam allowance, let's call it. And that's what'll get glued down once it's trimmed. The tape's on there to keep it protected for the rest of the build, but this edge here, some of the foam details are going to overlap it, so I want that exposed. I'm also going to scuff up both the inside and the outside of this so that the glue I use will stick to it. So I just have some 100 grit here, scuff up that side, scuff up the underside, and then we'll be ready for glue. Got my hot glue fired up. Going to do this in stages, kind of tack the middle on here, and then we'll work our way around the edge of it. There we go. And this is in tension now, so I definitely have to hold it until it's fully cooled, otherwise it'll peel that away. Yeah, that looks all nice and secured. It looks like it's on straight, but the ultimate test, does it still fit on my head? Yes, it does. And I imagine if there wasn't any blue tape here, I could see very well. Or give me my lightsaber and a training droid, I can work on my Jedi skills. I sometimes wonder when I do this if Britt just wanders off and I'm here just talking to myself in the shop. She's still here. All right, let's drop it down on the head here, and we can start putting some detail on this guy. All of these sort of foundational stuff is pretty much done now. We can have a little fun with the details, and since this is my own design, I can do whatever I want. So I'm gonna do some trimming with these half-round foam dowels to cover the sort of ugly seam between our helmet and the visor. If I cover that up like that, you don't notice the transition, and it looks really great. So I'm just gonna tack this all around the perimeter. I'm just gonna glue this down on the visor part first. There's this gap we'll have to deal with in a little bit, but right now I just wanna get everything positioned correctly, and I can spray a little activator on the back of this. Okay, and just follow that line that I trimmed in the tape. And I'm planned on this being long, and I'll just trim it after. Then we'll keep going. There's still a gap here, so I'm just going to use a little super glue to tack it down to the helmet. Put a little glue, give it a little spritz, and then clamp. And it's done. It's going all the way around. This is all looking pretty good. Next thing I need to do is hide these ugly seams. And to do that, I'm just gonna cut out some thin strips of, I think this is 5mm foam, putting a little bit of a bevel on them there so that they look fancy. Just gonna give it a little tilt and slowly cut along that line. And then I'm going to go back over it and finish the cut. There we go. There, we're going to use these to hide our crimes. Got one of my strips here. I want it to overlap a little bit there. So I'm going to use super glue for this and just work in little parts. Just a little bit there. Make sure this part in particular is nice and centered, and especially centered. Boy, that would bother me if I just got this off by like 1/8 of an inch or something. This is why I love foam. You can just mash it down in there and it will stay like that. And it will take that corner. Oh yeah, that looks awesome. So long, hideous seams. Kind of the downside to filming all of this is that you guys all know they're there. I'm sure you won't tell anyone though. Come on, careful. Look at that. I like that. The next bit of detail will be some panels here, and I want to use my carbon fiber stamp for these. And I'm gonna, the thought anyway, I'm gonna cut these out of the helmet, pull them out, stamp them, put them back in. It could work, I don't know. Let's give it a try. The design is just a simple couple of panels here, and I can use this tape as my pattern. I'll just pull it off once I'm done drawing it all. Looks okay? What do you think? Are these shapes pleasing? All right. Sticking that whole thing down. I'm also gonna say that this is the left side, left, front, left, rear. That way I can use it on the other side. That comes out. So I'm cutting out this border now, and hopefully I'll be able to place this back on the helmet and it'll be nice and lined up where it needs to go. Now this can go back up here. I can put it right in its little window and trace it.
What do you use these for?
I don't know. I don't know why I labeled it. Thank you. There's our little panels. And then we rotate this around, rotate that over. The sides are obviously not perfectly symmetrical. It's all right. This will still look good. Yeah, those look great. I'm gonna cut each of these out. What I'm using my little knife here. I have a lot of control, and I wanna try and make sure the cuts are perfectly perpendicular to this surface. I don't want it to accidentally be beveled one way or the other. I go straight down in the corner, and then just kind of saw my way to the other corner. Make sure it's going straight down. And we keep this crazy train rolling. I'm curious if when we squish this to put a pattern on it, if it'll get wider and no longer fit in this hole. But I guess we'll find out soon. That's a satisfying bit of cutting right there. So that'll get stamped with the texture, and I think I want to inset it a little bit once it's got the texture on there. And we'll go with our rotary tool and round over these edges here so they're nice and clean. But I think that looks really cool. These parts are getting the carbon fiber stamp. Same as before. That goes in there, that goes on it, and that gets squished. Oh yeah. Huh. Look at that. Still fits. Let's just do, yeah, just a little bit inset like that. How good is that? Oh, I love it. Okay, to attach these, I'm going to put them in position first, and they'll be nice and snug. And get them as deep as I want them to be. So there's a little bit of a lip. Okay, and then I just put a little glue down in the crevice. Whoa, too much glue. And we'll do each side, sort of fill in that gap, and then I can squeeze out the excess, wipe it off, and then give it a little spritz with activator. And we go all the way around doing that. Looking good. And I am pretty pleased with that. Excellent. I think that's enough detail on this helmet here. I had kind of planned for some more bits, but I really want to highlight all the wonderful texture we've added. And normally I'd grab the heat gun and heat seal everything. However, that heat would probably remove all of these textures. So I'm not going to do that. We're going to go straight to Plasti Dip, put on like 3 good coats, let it all dry. All dribbly. Oh, it's clean now. You like how I planned for it to stop right there?
Yeah, it was great.
It's the next day. I put on 3 coats of Plasti Dip on everything, and then 3 coats of this satin smooth gray paint that we got from Plaid Effects. I thinned this with a little bit of water and then sprayed it on with the airbrush, let it dry overnight, and we are ready for the remaining layers of paint. Starting with a little bit of masking, kind of figuring out the color scheme here. I think I want some blue on these side panels. I have a bunch of masking tape so I can mask that off and just spray it all on. Just making a big old dish here. I'll leave the tape sticking out like that so it's like a shield almost to prevent the overspray from getting out. There we go. We have this nice dish. Now you can still get overspray over here, so you want to be super careful, but I could probably airbrush that without getting it anywhere else. I kind of like how that looks. It's pretty neat. Kind of reminds me of Rufio from Hook.
Rufy.
Oh! Rufy! Oh! True story. I was in LA in 2013 and I went to a Halloween party. There was a DJ playing music dressed like Rufio, and he looked perfect. It was awesome. Anyway, I got my blue paint. Let's go to the airbrush and paint these things. Time for the fun part. Let's see if we can get this all to come off with one pull. Ready? Oh, oh, oh. Nah, curses. There we go. Ooh, yeah. Oh, that's nice and clean.
I like that blue.
It's a great blue. Thinking the carbon fiber here should be like maybe this gunmetal. I might try just brushing that on by hand and see how that looks. This gunmetal is one of my favorite colors of paint. Probably gonna take 2 coats, but that's all right. And I could airbrush this. I just decided that this would be quicker than all that masking. Also, the blue paint is definitely not dry all the way, so putting masking tape on it might pull it off. Here I am with my old school brush. That looks great. I love it. I'm gonna put a second coat on in a little bit, but while it's drying, I can do the piping around the visor here, and I just have a darker gray for that, slightly darker. These seam hiders I put on here need to get painted. Going with black on these, although I think I'm gonna make them look like they're chipped with some edge weathering. We're also gonna weather the crap out of this thing. It's gonna be super dirty and look awesome. So anywhere like that little, oh, oops, oh, I got some paint on. We're gonna take care of that. We're gonna just cover that in weathering paint. Got all the hand painting done in there. Time to fancy things up a bit with some stencils right there. I'm gonna make some letters, some really big letters, and I'll make those stencils by hand. Got some of this sort of nicer fine detail delicate surfaces tape here. That's gonna be my mask. And then the printout, I printed this out to size just on my normal laser printer, and that's gonna go over it, and I'll just use this cheap glue tape to hold it down. Just line it right up over that. Make sure it is nice and tight to the surface. And then with a very sharp blade, I can trace the lines cutting all the way through the masking tape below, and that will make a stencil. There we go. So the paper can go away, and then I can weed out the inside. Come on. And that is our stencil. So this will get peeled up and laid down on our helmet very carefully. You could put some transfer tape over it, but I'm gonna be a maverick today and just do it by hand. Just make sure I don't put it on there upside down. I'm just trying to get all these to sort of match the curve of the helmet there. There goes that, and that can go down. So because it's a compound curve, that part got a little squished up. See if we can fix that up. Oh, much better. And then I want to make sure it's nice and tight and that there aren't any gaps under these grooves that I've added. That looks pretty awesome. Got my stencil all laid out there, but I have to cover the rest of the helmet. This tool, so good, so useful for masking large areas. I can just have the tape go right along the stencil there, and the paper will cover everything else. Highly recommended if you do any amount of masking work, even at home. This is great. This is actually intended for like edging the walls in your house and everything, but great for props. Got a couple coats on there. It's still kind of drying, but I can totally pull that stuff off. And these sheets here, I'm gonna hang on to. I'll reuse these a couple of times. Very good, very good. I don't see any overspray. Now it's time for the fun part. Yeah. Oh, stencils make everything look so much more legit. Even like just hand cut stencils like that add that layer of authenticity. What does this number mean? I don't know. I just randomly picked 4 numbers. but it definitely makes that look so much more legit. I wanted to do some more stencils, so I cut out some more intricate ones, like this barcode here, over on the vinyl cutter. This tiny little thing with all these tiny letters would be super hard to do by hand, so vinyl cutter is where it's at. Let's start with this guy. I did put some transfer tape on here to make everything a little easier on myself. That way when I peel this off, the floating bits there go with the transfer tape. And we'll get transferred in place. There we go. And then I pick a spot. That looks good there. Oh, no, oh. What are you doing? What are we doing? There we go. Make sure everything's pressed down. See, it's buckling a little bit. This stencil vinyl is a little stiff. I've found that if it buckles in a corner like that, what you can do, carefully cut that corner all the way through and lay it down again so that the corner pieces kind of overlap. That way you're not getting that weird pinching on the corner that paint can sneak under. Another little bit there. This vinyl is great. It's a low tack stencil vinyl, so it doesn't stick really hard. But it is a little stiff and kind of hard to get it to conform to compound curves, but we got it. So now I'll take these sheets I saved and mask it up. Got it all masked off here, and I still have the orange in my air gun here. I'm gonna try something. I have some yellow, and I think I want to put yellow in the middle and orange on the outside, but keep the gradient. There we go. Swap to yellow. Just gonna try and get it in the middle there. Okay, let's see how it looks. Of course, I have to go in and get all these floating bits. There we go. There we go. Wait a minute. Oh, right at the end. There we go. Yeah, that looks cool. I'm glad I gave that a shot. I think that would look really good with like a black outline. I don't think I'm gonna do that, but that looks really cool. Oh yeah, oh, some of those are falling off. Oh yeah. Hold on. Yeah, oh, there's one little bit in there. There we go. Awesome. Just taking the masking tape off of the visor here. That's a little bit of a pain in the butt. One thing I noticed, so we put masking tape on the inside to keep paint from getting there. And that's where I originally sprayed that blue tint. And it's kind of hard to see, but it pulled that tint right off. This plastic is shiny and it just didn't stick. It's not awful. In fact, I can barely notice when I look straight at it, but I can definitely tell it's missing in there. So we need to figure out how we're gonna resolve that. Maybe I can try and wipe that. Maybe it'll come off with like acetone or something, and then we can do a different treatment on it. Okay, we're removing all the blue. It's so spotty. I just want to get rid of it all. Did a quick test on this chunk here and found that lacquer thinner will remove that without damaging the plastic at all. So that's what we're going to use. Hence the gloves. You can see the blue came off of the visor, nice and easy with that lacquer thinner. A little messy, but we handled it. And now I'm sanding a little spot right here so that I can paint this edge black and cover some of our crimes here. See how messy that is? Cover that right up. It's actually a flat black paint, so it won't be shiny and therefore hopefully less noticeable. Remember, we're hiding our crimes. There. Crimes successfully hidden. Now, that blue isn't in there anymore. That's okay. We're still going to put a mirror finish on the inside. This is Spaz Sticks. Great stuff. It'll have a nice chrome finish on the inside of this plastic, but it's actually thin enough to see through. Let's give it a shot. A little at a time. Already looking shiny. That's so cool.
We can see us. Hello.
Awesome. I mean, put a little more in there, but that's pretty great. Look how shiny that is. And hold on, can I still see through it? Yes, I can. Sure hope that's dry. Look at how well you can see through it. Hopefully you can.
Yeah, looks great.
Awesome. It is time for weathering. And I'm gonna get messy, so I'm putting gloves on. We've got some acrylic paints here, just going to the Liquitex Heavy Bodies. Got some water to thin that a little bit. Got a rag. That's all we need to have a good time. Super dirty. I love it. That all looks good. Let's chuck it on my head. Ba-da-da-da. It fits perfectly. And if I had my glasses on, I bet I could see. How cool is this? Really, how cool is it, Britt? I can't see.
It looks great.
Is it cool? Oh, I love it. I really dig the texture. I really like how the texture up here is capturing all of the weathering paint. We have that nice contrast there. I am super happy with how this thing turned out. One more thing I wanted to just sort of cover here. Normally, once our helmet's all assembled, we heat seal it with a heat gun or a blowtorch, and that takes the surface of the foam, kind of tightens it up so there aren't as many of these little pores showing. And I didn't do that on this panel here because I was adding a texture to these, and I didn't add a texture to that, and I should have heat sealed it. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's little pores showing through that I don't like as much. And there's some fuzzies on the edge of this here. So potentially what I could have done was, after these were cut out, come in here with a blowtorch and torch those a little bit. However, the good news is when you heat up and then press your texture into the foam, that seems to do a great job of heat sealing it. So I really love how the surface finish came out on these parts right here. So just a little talk about heat sealing and how this could have been done better. I still like it though. The last thing I did, actually took some of this crystal clear here, sprayed a coat on the inside of the visor to protect that chrome paint, because my nose grease, and probably yours too, will move that paint. I learned the hard way, had to put it back on there. So that wraps up the helmet. Remember that over on our website at punishprops.com, you can find all sorts of goodies to purchase, including the 3D print files for these texture stamps for super cheap. I think we're gonna put them up there for like $5, as well as the pattern for this head, this foam head, so useful during this project, and the basic pattern for this helmet. All of those over at our website, again, punishprops.com. While you're there, you can grab a copy of the new book, all about making helmets and masks out of foam. Foamsmith 3. Thank you again for watching. Thank you, Britt, for filming.
You're welcome.
And helping out. It's been great having you in the shop. Thank you to the Extra Credit Club for supporting us. If you want to join, get access to some extra credit vlogs and behind the scenes shop projects, we'll have a link down below where you can join. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the shop real soon with another fun project. Give it a little spritz, and then clamp and wait. Anyone else have a Beat Saber song in their head? Still lots of Beat Saber songs. I've been playing a lot of Beat Saber lately. That's exactly how the song goes. What is happening?